United Voices Africa. I'm Akwasi Prempeh, broadcasting from the United States of Africa. Today, we bring you an address straight from the world stage, delivered at the 80th United Nations General Assembly by Mali's Prime Minister, Abdoulaye Maïga. In this powerful message, you'll hear unfiltered perspectives on the Sahel's ongoing struggle against terrorism, calls for greater African self-determination, and a demand for real reform at the UN. The speech also tackles pressing issues like foreign intervention, regional security, and African unity, all through the voice of Mali's leadership, echoing the hopes and challenges of millions across our continent. If you believe in connecting Africans and building unity, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going and show the world the strength of African solidarity. Now, let's hear from Prime Minister Abdoulaye Maïga.
The General Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Mr. Abdoulaye Maïga, Prime Minister, Head of Government and Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization of the Republic of Mali. I kindly ask the protocol to escort His Excellency, whom I invite to take the floor. Before the Assembly.
Madam President of the General Assembly, distinguished excellencies, esteemed heads of state and government, and all ladies and gentlemen. The Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to my remarks, I have the honor of extending to you cordial greetings and conveying the messages from the founding fathers of the Confederation of Sahel States, AES. Their Excellencies, General of the Army Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition, Head of State of the Republic of Mali, President of the Confederation of Sahel States, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Faso, Head of State, General of the Army Abdourahmane Chiani, President of the Republic of Niger, Head of State. I also ask you to receive the warm greetings of the proud people of the AES, who are more determined than ever to free themselves from the yoke of imperialism and to achieve self-determination in a Pan-Africanist spirit. While extending to you the best wishes for success from the Confederation of Sahel States on your election as President of this 80th session of the General Assembly, Madam President, I also congratulate your predecessor, His Excellency, Mr. Philemon Yang of the Republic of Cameroon, for his exemplary leadership during the proceedings of the 79th session. Allow me finally to once again express to Secretary General Mr. Antonio Guterres our appreciation for the efforts he continues to make toward achieving the noble objectives of our common organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this 80th session of the General Assembly, namely, and I quote, "Better Together, over 80 years in the service of peace, development and human rights," is of particular importance to the member states of the AES Confederation. Indeed, peace, mutual assistance, development, and the protection of human rights remain the main objectives, and even the very raison d'etre of the United Nations. Unfortunately, these essential objectives have never been so deeply shaken. In the world, and especially in the Sahel, mainly due to obscurantist armed groups manipulated and supported by foreign state sponsors, the member states of the Confederation of Sahel States are at the forefront of the fight against terrorism, which constitutes both a real threat to peace and international security, but above all, a serious attack on the very foundations of our states. Under the leadership of our heads of state, the defense and security forces of the three countries of the AES Confederation are working closely together in an unprecedented spirit of collaboration and complementarity, driven by a shared commitment and the pooling of efforts. A strong determination to stem the scourge of terrorism. This new dynamic centered on strengthening the operational capacities of our defense and security forces through massive recruitment, proper training, and the establishment of order, and the provision of appropriate equipment, is producing encouraging results on the ground every day, thus confirming the full relevance of our sovereign decision to unite in order to fight our common enemies. Unlike certain states that have opened corridors on their territory for terrorists to attack other countries or have offered their territory as a rear base, the founding fathers of the AES, out of Pan-Africanist commitment and with the aim of safeguarding the interests of their people, decided to secure their countries while preventing the spread of the threat to other African regions or even to the world, thus carrying out a true mission of public, regional, and global security. There is absolutely no doubt that through their sacrifice, the brave defense and security forces of the AES contribute to the security of other regions, particularly the countries located on the West African coast. We take this opportunity to pay our respects to the memory of the civilian and military victims of insecurity in the Sahel. The sovereignist approach implemented is part of the vision promoted by the heads of state of the AES, dedicated to the security of our states following the withdrawal of international forces. Defying all predictions and far from undermining themselves, our countries have shown ingenuity by drawing on the historical and geographical foundations, as well as the resilience of the confederated peoples who, despite more than a decade of security and humanitarian crises, continue to demonstrate an exceptional strength of patriotic commitment. In short, our three countries have managed to provide a coordinated and homegrown response to this war that was imposed on us. This is the moment to reaffirm here the full and unwavering determination of the AES Confederation to become a Pan-African regional power and to continue and intensify its actions, with the aim of driving terrorism out of our shared space once and for all, consolidating state authority, protecting our people and their property, and ensuring our prosperity. The AES Confederation strongly reiterates its firm condemnation of the open and sometimes publicly expressed support from foreign state sponsors who, for imperialist motives, destabilize our entity, on the one hand, by providing terrorist groups with advisors, logistical resources, weapons and ammunition, and on the other hand, by granting them political support and offering them rear bases located in certain neighboring countries, in violation of all international rules. Ladies and gentlemen, as distant as they may seem, the war in Ukraine and terrorism in the Sahel are connected. As a reminder, after the terrorist attack against the Malian Defense and Security Forces patrol on August 24th, on July 26, 2024, in Tensawatin, in the Kidal region, Mali denounced this incident in its 2024 address right here and condemned the behavior of Ukrainian officials who publicly claimed responsibility for their participation in the said terrorist attack. From this unusual behavior, we simply concluded that the Ukrainian officials have unfortunately confused the international stage with the theater stage. A year later, the situation escalated with the regime, and the Ukrainian regime became one of the main suppliers of kamikaze drones to terrorist groups around the world. In this context, certain Western states must stop supplying weapons to Ukraine or risk contributing to the spread of international terrorism. For others, including the French regime, nostalgic for its colonial past and concerned about its loss of influence in the Sahel, supporting the Ukrainian regime is a maneuver aimed at focusing the international community's attention on the war in Ukraine, while at the same time sponsoring terrorist groups operating in the Sahel. Faithful to the principles of the United Nations Charter, on August 15, 2022, Mali brought the matter before the United Nations Security Council, requesting a meeting so that my country could present irrefutable evidence of France's support for these activities. Terrorist activities. So far, the request has gone unanswered, even as their acts of sabotage continue at various levels. It is time to take action so that those responsible for these acts of violence are identified and held accountable, that resolutions are translated into concrete commitments, that the Sahelian region is finally secured, and that the resources of the Sahel benefit the people of the Sahel. International institutions, first and foremost the UN, were created in the aftermath of the Second World War to protect people from excessive violence, policies of annihilation, and silent genocides. It is high time for the global conscience to awaken and for international institutions to take their share of responsibility by truly responding to the cries for help from oppressed peoples who are claiming their sovereignty. The AES Confederation reiterates its commitment to cooperate with all states, regional and international organizations, and partners who respect its sovereignty, its sovereign political choices, its priorities in terms of security, the fight against terrorism, and economic and social development, all within the framework of a win-win partnership to fulfill the aspirations of its people. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to the security efforts to restore peace in our countries, the government of the AES Confederation is working on implementing a comprehensive and integrated strategy that includes political measures, economic and social development, justice and reconciliation by choosing the path of boldness and of sovereignty. The confederal bodies have launched groundbreaking initiatives based on endogenous development. This is a clear path, one where we ourselves bring the essential added value to our economies and preserve the dignity of our peoples. This choice, which we fully embrace, reflects our firm and unwavering determination to take our destiny into our own hands. In the same spirit, we have made it a national and confederal priority to implement strategic investment policies in various key sectors, such as infrastructure, energy, industrialization, and economic diversification. Contributing to this momentum is the creation of the Confederal Bank for Investment and Development, aimed at carrying out confederal projects. The Confederation of Sahel States bases its development ambitions on undeniable strengths. A vast territory of 2.8 million square kilometers and a population of 75 million people, the majority of whom are young. This is further enhanced by its strong, committed and active diaspora. It also relies on its fertile lands, numerous rivers, energy sources and some of the world's largest reserves of mineral resources. Ladies and gentlemen, the third aspect of the theme of the 90th session of the Assembly concerns human rights. The AES Confederation reaffirms its commitment to respecting and ensuring respect for international human rights law and international humanitarian law in accordance with its millennia-old humanist history and its national commitments and international commitments. However, we remain strongly opposed to the instrumentalization of the issue of human rights for political purposes or to destabilize our national institutions or even our independent sovereign states. The approach in this situation is concerned with preserving the sovereignty and dignity of the people. The heads of state of the AES Confederation have withdrawn with immediate effect from the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court as of September 22, 2025. In addition to this withdrawal, they have expressed their intention to henceforth prioritize endogenous justice mechanisms that are in line with their societal values and in the interest of the people of the AES. We also denounce the double standards observed by certain international actors whose standards shift according to their own interests. These self-proclaimed moralizers are in fact not the best examples themselves when it comes to respecting human rights. We call on our partners to prioritize dialogue and cooperation, which remain the best means to promote human rights around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, it is clear that our multilateral framework, embodied by the UN, is being severely tested in an international context marked by polarization, the gradual return of nationalism, protectionism, isolationism, and power struggles. Despite this current reality, it is clear that the three major objectives set out in the United Nations Charter, namely peace, development, and human rights, remain relevant. To achieve these objectives, we need, first and foremost, a United Nations organization that is truly renewed, reformed, and adapted to the demands of our time. This is an essential condition for strengthening its international legitimacy and to ensure the effective implementation of these decisions. This is an opportunity to strongly recall that Africa has been calling for reforms for about 20 years to address the historical injustice it faces regarding its representation. I hereby reaffirm the full support of the AES Confederation for the common African position on this issue, as stated in the Iluwini's Consensus and the CIR Declaration, so that Africa may have 2 permanent seats and 5 non-permanent seats. Secondly, we need a United Nations organization that guarantees respect for international law for all. We are concerned to witness the blatant violations of international law around the world, and this with complete impunity. This 80th anniversary of the UN is, for us member states, an opportunity to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to a multilateral framework based on law and not on force. Thirdly, we need robust mechanisms for monitoring and implementing the outcomes of international conferences. The situation in this area is clear. From the creation of the UN in 1945 to the present day, we have held dozens of international conferences whose commitments have been very weakly, if at all, implemented for the benefit of the populations we represent here. This situation must absolutely change. That is why we advocate for the proposed reforms to address this issue, so that our respective nations can benefit from the dividends of the commitments made under the auspices of the UN. For its part, the Confederation of Sahel States is ready to contribute to the now essential reform of the United Nations multilateral framework. With regard to current global governance, it is becoming increasingly clear that it is no longer suited to present and future challenges. What is needed instead is a bolder overhaul of international economic and financial institutions, which would benefit from addressing the issue of financing security and the fight against exogenous crises. In this regard, innovative mechanisms such as the BRICS offer a constructive alternative that is more respectful of the interests of emerging and developing countries, just as African development financing initiatives, on which Sahel countries place particular emphasis, aim to break the vicious cycle of dependency and over-indebtedness. Within this dynamic, Africa's concerns regarding economic and social development must be taken into account. Africa is often portrayed as the continent of the future, rich in its youth, but unfortunately it faces the heavy burden of external debt, the plundering of its resources, unequal trade, negative resource transfers, and the uncertainties of climate change, among other challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, at the national level, Mali, in its quest for peace and lasting stability, and in accordance with the aspirations of its people, as expressed during the Inter-Malian Dialogue for Peace and Reconciliation, has adopted a Charter for Peace and National Reconciliation. The result of an inclusive participatory process focused on dialogue and consultation among Malians from all socio-professional backgrounds and from the diaspora, the Charter embodies our determination to strengthen national ownership of the process of peace in Mali. It is based on our realities, our traditional values, and our endogenous mechanisms for resolving disputes in order to resolutely move toward a shared and promising future. On July 22, 2025, during the remission of the Republic's meeting, the official presentation of the Charter, His Excellency General of the Army, Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition and Head of State of the Republic of Mali, in his speech, emphasized the historical significance of this event in the following terms. I quote, "This momentous and deeply significant ceremony is all the more unique and profoundly meaningful because it carries within its very essence a powerful collective dream, the fervent hope for a truly lasting and enduring peace, a robust and harmonious social cohesion among all its people, and in short, a comprehensive and heartfelt reconciliation throughout our beloved and cherished homeland. This aspiration is deeply embedded in the hearts of everyone present." End of quote. Strongly condemned this aggression and brought the matter before the International Court of Justice for this purpose. Since gaining independence on September 22, 1960, Mali has spared no effort in the decolonization of the African continent. In this regard, there was a debate with Mali. It actively and exceptionally supported Algeria in its war of liberation against the French colonizer, given its consistent political stance in favor of Pan-Africanism, in addition to the geographical proximity between Algeria and the country, between two countries that share a border stretching 1,300 kilometers. Mali has always shown a benevolent attention toward the brotherly Algerian people. In contrast to this constructive approach from Mali, we will highlight three incongruous and incomprehensible situations that have marked the recent relations between our two countries. 1. The cowardly and treacherous attack targeting the Malian armed forces in Tezawaten took place just a few kilometers from the Algerian border. Strangely, the Algerian agent saw and heard nothing, even though the terrorist act was planned on its territory. This is troubling for a country that has been designated as the African Union's champion in the fight against terrorism, but in recent years has become a champion in promoting terrorism and exporting terrorists. Second, as previously stated, the Algerian agent reported a Malian drone purchased with Mali's own funds and at the expense of the Malian taxpayer on the false pretext of violating their airspace. Mali is troubled by the theory put forth by the Algerian agent. The Algerian theory defies the laws of physics, claiming that an object shot down in the air is capable of moving 22 kilometers from its crash site and then ending up on Malian territory. Indeed, it is important to point out that the debris from the Malian drone was found on Malian territory, which supports our arguments. 3. On September 4, 2025, the Malian government informed the public that it had filed an application with the International Court of Justice against the Algerian agent regarding the destruction of the drone. in a statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs dated September 19, 2025, we learned with deep astonishment of an allegation according to which the filing of the Malian application was motivated by the press conference held by the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs on September 13, 2025, during which he denied that Mali had filed an application with the International Court of Justice. We would like to point out to the Minister that the filing of the application announced by Mali on September 4th never meant its automatic registration by the International Court of Justice. Mali recalls that diplomacy is intended to defend the interests of its country, assuming that the Malian complaint was triggered by his press conference. The troublemaker from Algiers demonstrates that his vision of diplomacy is to push other countries to take his own country to international bodies, thus becoming a highly effective own goal scorer, popularly called in Mali, Yabe. It's troubling. By the way, Mali pays a heartfelt tribute to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Algerian agent. Indeed, since lies corrupt everything, he has just stripped all credibility from the Algerian version regarding the destruction of the Malian drone. Also, we were not at all surprised by the Algerian agent's headlong rush, who refused to give his consent to the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice following the case of the destruction of the Malian drone, thus fearing to be publicly exposed, publicly as an aggressor and supporter of international terrorism. In light of these three unusual points, Mali recommends to the Algerian side, on the one hand, to take to heart this quote from Amadou Hampâté Bâ, inspired by the teachings of Thierno Bokar, the sage of Bandiagara, and I quote, "Some truths seem unbelievable to us simply because our knowledge does not reach them." We invite them to seek to know Mali and the values embodied by the Malians. Also, in the face of attacks and adversity, we will not be mere spectators. For every bullet fired at us, we will respond in kind. For every word wrongly spoken, we will respond in kind. On the other hand, it is strongly recommended that the Algerian agent organize, in Tensavot, Algeria, an annual international festival dedicated to the artifice of human intelligence. From this platform, we call on the Algerian agent to stop supporting international terrorism and to become actively involved in promoting peace and security in a constructive spirit, respecting the sovereignty of states. I repeat, from this platform, we call on the Algerian agent to stop supporting international terrorism and to become actively involved in promoting peace and security in a common spirit, constructively while respecting the sovereignty of states. I repeat for the last time, from this platform, we call on the Algerian agent to stop supporting international terrorism and to become actively involved in promoting peace and security in a constructive spirit and with respect for the sovereignty of states. Let that be a warning to those who understand. If not, so be it. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportune moment to share the opinion of a citizen, the raised fist at the dawn of our regained sovereignty, an opinion shared by the people of the AUS Confederation. Our confederation is made up of a nation of fighters, a land of resistance. What we are facing is not just an internal conflict, it is a hybrid war. It is backed by imperialist interests, where the enemies of peace sometimes wear ties. If the UN continues to feign ignorance, it will cease to be the sum of the world and will become the passive arm of global injustice. We say this, the AES Confederation is not afraid, it will not give in, it will resist now and always. However, the AES Confederation is giving the United Nations a historic opportunity to stand on the side of truth, to recognize that the people of AES are under attack, and to support a confederation that fights both for itself and for the love of humanity. Africa, for the stability of the continent, and indirectly, for that of the entire world. History will judge, and it will judge those who armed the forces of evil, and it will judge those who looked the other way, and it will judge those who forgot that justice is justice. Justice is the only path to lasting peace. The AES Confederation is not asking for charity, it is appealing to conscience. In conclusion, I would like to reaffirm here the commitment of the Confederation of Sahel States to the values, goals, and principles of the United Nations Charter. Furthermore, the AES Confederation states that we can only be better together if we work collectively for a multilateralism with a human face based on dialogue founded on law. Law, cooperation and solidarity among peoples, promoting peace and development while respecting the sovereignty of states. However, we cannot and must not continue doing the same things for years to come and expect different results. There is an urgent need for reforms within our existing multilateral framework, embodied by our common organization. The celebration of the UN's 80th anniversary offers us this historic opportunity to adapt the organization to current realities, making it capable of responding effectively to present and future challenges. The AIEU's Confederation remains ready to play its full part in the quest for collective solutions aimed at protecting future generations from the scourge of war, ensuring harmonious development for all, and promoting and protecting human rights. May God bless the Confederation of Sahel States and protect its people from the forces of obscurantism and the destructive forces in the world. May God bless Mali and protect the Malians from the forces of obscurantism and destruction in the world. May God bless Africa and protect Africans from the forces of obscurantism and destruction in the world. May God bless the world and protect all of humanity from the forces of obscurantism and destruction in the world. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
On behalf of the entire General Assembly, I would like to sincerely thank the distinguished Prime Minister, the esteemed Head of Government, and the Honorable Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization of the Republic of Mali.